Along to the show, it does feel like it's Liverpool's to lose. Let's be honest, Jonathan, doesn't it?
It's a question of when. Will it be a record? Will it be a record title by March or April? Can they go unbeaten? But they're that good. They are the best in the world at the moment and playing like it.
I think what's so impressive is, obviously they won the Champions League, Glenn, but they could have been forgiven for thinking we can't do any more than we did last season. We lost one game and we couldn't win the league. That might have knocked some people back and thought we can't give any more, but it doesn't seem to have knocked them back at all. In fact, quite the opposite. Yeah,
I think, if anything, it's made them hungrier. And I think with the way that Manchester City performed this year, it's made it a lot easier for them. They're cruising and it looks like they will not be caught.
You have a foot in many camps, but you very much have a foot in the Liverpool camp. So you must be, as Jonathan says, just awaiting the coronation with a lot of anticipation.
Yeah, it's done. I mean, I was very surprised, going back to your question to Glenn earlier about mentally, were they strong enough? I thought they'd really struggle. I thought at the start of the season, before a ball was kicked, I thought when you've had such a good season last season, only lost one game, came so close, I thought they would struggle. But like you said, they've gone on, and I think being European champions has certainly helped them. They've got that swagger. Now being the best team in the world, it's just sort of kicking them on. They've got momentum. Winning's always been a habit, like losing. Once you get on a winning streak, you feel as though you're invincible, and they've got that at Anfield, and they are absolutely flying this season.
Yeah, we've seen it before, haven't we? We've seen the great Manchester United teams. We saw it with Arsenal's invincible team. Definitely some of Jose Mourinho's teams, City the last couple of years, that you look at them in the tunnel and you think they know they're going to win this game, and the opposition know they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I think they're good comparisons, because Liverpool have got into that state where it doesn't matter where they are in the world, almost doesn't matter what 11 they send out. They send out a team that's got a certain mentality, a certain style, and a certain aura about them now. That aura's built up, and they are where they are. One game defeated in 21, and I don't think they've actually really hit top form. They may be hitting top form now, but they've got through that early part of the season, not playing their best, but just grinding out wins.
There's a lot about Jurgen Klopp, this, doesn't it? It really says an enormous amount about their German manager.
Yeah, it does, and I don't even think it's just the players. It's the whole city, it's the fans, it's everything. He's got that momentum. Don mentioned it there. It's the momentum of the city, it's the momentum of Liverpool. And I've watched games this year, and they haven't been at their best early on in the season, and they've been drawing games and scoring late on, and that is the mark of champions, I think, when the chips are down and you still win.
Well, one man who has embodied Klopp's philosophy and the passion that the Anfield faithful expect is Trent Alexander-Arnold. We caught up with him after that performance against Leicester City on Boxing Day. Such an impressive young man who'll be Liverpool captain one day, Don, won't he? That's for sure. But, I mean, that is extraordinary that a right-back has the most Premier League assists since the start of last season. I asked you off-air whether you thought, you're going to give me a good answer, all three of you, whether he might move into midfield one day, because he is so talented.
I mean, he can, because he's got the ability, and there might be games where he is needed, but I just think you leave him in that position because he's so devastating. I can't think of a fullback that's been so good in that position going forward. You know, there's been legendary fullbacks over the years that have been great defenders and getting forward, but getting the numbers that he's getting alongside Andy Robertson, it's just absolutely phenomenal. When you see them every single week and you think Trent sometimes is Liverpool's best player at right back. He's got that much of an effect.
You said no straight away to me.
Why would he want to move? He's so devastating in right back, and he's making full back fashionable again. Kids want to be fullbacks because of him, and Klopp's give him that.
I don't think fashionable again. I think fashionable.
Klopp's give him that licence to go forward, and for me, I think he's probably the most improved player under Klopp's regime.
Yeah, it is incredible. I mean, the next question for all of us is, might they go unbeaten in the league? And you have to say, the way they're playing, there's every chance, isn't there?
There is. I mean, they've got that date at the Etihad, which will be difficult for them.
Yeah.
But it's not just the way they're playing, it's a mentality that we've talked about. But this looks like a team that want to achieve record-breaking things. I was with them when they went the World Club Championship. Really difficult for them, but they found a way to win it because they wanted to be world champions. And I think being invincibles will mean something to them. They should win the league early, and they'll be looking... They've got that mentality. They'll look for the next achievement, and that could be it.
So when they win the league, they'll be world champions, European champions, English champions, and as you say, the invincibility will be the next mountain to climb. Wow, amazing stuff. Look, this is their next 10 fixtures. So they've got to go to top. Well, the next two are interesting, Don, aren't they? Got to go to Tottenham. They've still got the derby at Goodison.
Yeah, which is always hard.
And as Jonathan said, they've got to go to the Etihad and they've got to go to the Emirates.
Yeah, do you know what? I was in the other night when Sheffield United played Liverpool at Anfield, and you tried to make a case for Sheffield United And because Sheffield United away from home have been great, so you try to be proactive on the opposition. But then still, under the lights at Anfield, when you weigh it all down, the record that they've got unbeaten in 51 and just swatting teams off, the United side will give them a test. Not because Man United are anywhere close to Liverpool, because that's always been a difficult fixture for them. But the way they're playing, you look at that list there and you can just see win after win after win. Unbeaten might be difficult because once they go deep into the Champions League, that's when they might start resting one or two players. But that, again, is the difference between Jurgen Klopp's approach than probably any other manager across Europe, because he plays his strongest side in nearly every single game.
Yeah. OK, on we go down the table. Let's have a look at Leicester City. Let's have a look at a comparison between the Leicester City team this season, which is doing so well, and really, I think we could all say overachieving compared to the Leicester City team last season, and just how it's been finessed a little bit as well, Glenn. How impressed have you been? Soyuncu's done really well at the back. Tielemans has come in the last year. Barnes has made an impact. Perez has done well coming from Newcastle. What have you made of Leicester?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a little bit of Tielemans towards the end of last year and knew he was a perfect fit for them, and that's why they went out and spent a lot of money on him. Soyuncu, for me, is the one. He's the key to their success. They obviously lost a big figure in Maguire. It was a bit of a messy transfer that dragged on throughout the summer. But to replace him with someone that I don't think many people had heard of in England, and for him to produce so much has been a real key to their success for me. And then I think the way that he plays for his striker. Under the old regime, he tried to change Leicester into a bit of a football team and didn't play to Jamie Vardy's strengths. When you play to Jamie Vardy's strengths, he scores goals, and goals win games.
He's improved everyone, Brendan. He's improved Jamie Vardy at the age of 32, 33. He's improved Johnny Evans at the age of 31. You look at that team, there's plenty of young players who are getting better, and he's playing a style of football that suits their skills, but he's also coaching them, he's improving them. And I agree with Glenn about Soyuncu. Leicester fans have got a song now that's not very kind to Harry Maguire, but tells you that they don't miss him because they've got.
Well, with the Maguire money, effectively they got Soyuncu and Tielemans, didn't they? With the Maguire money, and it's interesting. I think more and more we talk now, Jonathan, don't we, about coaches, and clearly Brendan Rodgers, I think, probably feels he has something to prove in English football after getting so close with Liverpool. You're a proud Scotsman. He goes to Scotland, wins everything with Celtic. Everyone in England, easy to say, well, it's shooting fish in a barrel. Anyone can do that. But they were a great attacking Celtic team. I think he feels he has something to prove.
They were, and Brendan will tell you that Celtic actually improved him, because what he had to do there was win. You have to win every week at Celtic or else you bust. And he also had to learn to break down teams that defend really deep when Celtic go away from home. And you can see him using that at Leicester. There's a different edge to Brendan. They've got different solutions in games. They're generally able to put away smaller opposition. He's got better, and he's still a young coach as well. Definitely wants to prove something. Definitely wants to show that 2013-14 season was, that's not going to define him in England.
I mean, interesting when the Arsenal job came up, and he was very definitely linked with it. And this time, I think Arsenal fans would have taken him, whereas 2 years ago, 18 months ago, they were a bit snotty about it, weren't they? Went, why do we want a Liverpool reject? It shows his image in this country as well, how good that is now.
And also, Mark, go back to when he was at Celtic. He was brave leaving Celtic, wasn't he? On the verge of the treble. That was, he took a lot of flack.
It's a man who knew his own mind, wasn't it?
Well, I think he said, and I think he got quoted as saying it was all about timing. And he probably looked at the Premier League jobs and thought, well, which job can I potentially get that I can get into the top 6 or 7? And he's seen something in Leicester with this young group of players and a talented group that they've got. And when he walked through the door, interestingly, he gave Wes Morgan a brand new contract before he'd even really seen him play in terms of, on the training ground or whatever, because he realised the most experienced players in his squad were worth looking after. People like Jamie Vardy and Wes Morgan, Kasper Schmeichel, these guys who control and run that dressing room. So it was a brave move all round, but one that Brendan, I thought he could see this Leicester side going somewhere.
Glenn, you look at that, they're the disruptor, aren't they? We wouldn't have had them top 4, but they're going to be top 4, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I would have liked to think they could have pushed Liverpool for entertainment value.
Yeah,
but
on Boxing Day, yes.
I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, they are the story of the season so far. They've come from. They're the one that's sort of leaped out of the pack and put a run together. But like we mentioned about Brendan Rodgers, he put the building blocks in place last year, and he's just continued that on. It's just that fluidity. Everyone knows their jobs. Everyone knows what they're doing. And they're not afraid of him. They have won the Premier League, and they've still got a lot of those players in that dressing room, so they know what it's like to be at the top end.
Yeah. OK, Leicester City doing brilliantly. What about Manchester City, the champions? We think probably it's not going to be 3 in a row like it was for Manchester United just over a decade ago. And again, comparing their season with this season with last season, they have dropped off a little bit, Jonathan. I'm going to get Glenn's view on this in a second, but do we almost expect too much of teams? I mean, it's hard enough to win it 2 years in a row, let alone 3 years in a row.
I didn't think they would struggle. But I didn't think they'd win the league this year simply because it is hard to play at the intensity that they do. The way that Guardiola coaches is very, very intense. I did think there'd be a drop-off. I'm amazed it's been quite so big. I think defensive issues are a large part of that. But you go back, the fact only Sir Alex Ferguson has won 3 consecutive titles at the same club in English history. It was always going to be tough with a really good Liverpool team breathing down their necks. It's just that their response has been so poor.
So Laporte's injury and Company leaving, can we lay it at that door? Or do you think fundamentally there's something a little bit deeper going on at the Etihad?
No, I think they are huge points there. You take a major player out in Company, maybe somebody that didn't play all the games last year, but somebody that would have been huge in their dressing room, and then obviously we were up there for Brighton, and Laporte made one of Pep's challenges, the ones where you stop someone in the middle of midfield to break the play.
Yeah.
And it was pretty innocuous, and it ended up with being...
It looked like just knees, but it was a clash of knees, wasn't it?
But it's been a huge impact on Manchester City this season. But I just can't believe, after dominating English football last year, that how far they have dropped.
Do you think there's something... If you just come off 1-2%, is that what it is sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe they got a little bit lazy and thought that Liverpool, after missing out so marginally last year, that they may sort of take a back seat. But yeah, they've been very disappointing for me.
When we look at the stats with and without Laporte, it shows how critical that injury was. But at the same time, Don, it does play into this whole issue about Company. Not just Company, the player, but Company, the captain, Company on the training ground, and whether actually, if you're not going to replace Company, you are running the risk. I know he loves Fernandinho as centre-back, but you are running the risk that if another one of your centre-backs gets injured, you really are short.
I think that's a good point as well, Mark, because I think John Stones in the last year and Otamendi, in my opinion, have gone backwards. John Stones is a fantastic centre-half when the ball's at his feet. Otamendi, in the 2 years they won the Premier League, was very, very good. He seems to have gone a little bit soft. And I think add that to the mentality, and when you're a player playing against people like Laporte and playing up against Vincent Kompany, it's tough. And you know you're in for a tough ride, and you know you're not going to get too many chances. Once they go out the side and people like Fernandinho come in, who's good in the position but a better midfield player, I would imagine if you're Glenn or any other striker in the Premier League, you might think we're going to get half a chance here. They're a little bit more vulnerable than they have been. Take Leroy Sané out of that for a cruciate injury as well. He's a major loss going forward. So I think it's more to do with losing Vincent Kompany and Laporte, but also what it's done to the other teams in the Premier League, that they now think they've got a chance.
Laporte's on his way back, which feels like it's ahead of schedule, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I couldn't believe the news. I've only just heard it recently, and to do an ACL and be back in 4 or 5 months, it's incredible. I just hope that it lasts and it's fixed properly.
It's all on the Champions League now, isn't it? Which I bet you, if we'd sat down with Pep before the season, he probably would have admitted, if we'd put him on the rack, that that's the one that he and the club really wanted, even more than the league.
Well, he likes to play it down because for obvious reasons. But yes, that would sort of complete his journey, as it were, complete Manchester City's journey. But the danger there again is going to be Liverpool, because why would City be any better than Liverpool in the Champions League when they're so far behind them in the Premier League? So I think they've got to hope they get a nice kind draw, and Real Madrid won't be easy for them either.
So that's Manchester City. We move on to 4th spot. That's Chelsea in 4th spot under Frank Lampard. Been an interesting season, start to the season for Chelsea and for Frank Lampard. When we have a look at the points that he has accrued in the Roman Abramovich era, after 21 matches, you can actually see, Jonathan, he's at the bottom of that. Being Abramovich, there are a lot of managers on that list. But I think, nevertheless, Chelsea fans would probably have settled for this. There's been some terrific wins at Tottenham and at Arsenal, and 3 successive home defeats in there against teams like Bournemouth and Southampton.
Yeah, there was a bad defeat against West Ham.
Yes.
There's been inconsistency. You're going to get that with young players. I think I detect on social media there's a little bit of a backlash starting from Chelsea fans, but in general they're behind Lampard, and rightly so, because he's not just managing a normal Chelsea season, he's managing a season without transfers. He's got a whole lot of young players that he's trying to grow in a team. I think he's done that pretty successfully. He's imposed a different style of play, and he's got to be allowed to grow as well. He'll be making mistakes in some of these sort of lesser Premier League games, maybe underestimating the opposition that he won't make next year. So I think it's part of a journey for them. And with transfers now back on the agenda, I think they'll be stronger and finish better in the second half of the season.
And we must remember, he's a very inexperienced manager himself, Frank Lampard. I mean, he had, what, one season at Derby and this, so...
I agree. Frank wouldn't agree with that, and I think he said that of late. I think he's got a very, very good squad. Even, people talk about the youngsters. He's still got people like N'Golo Conte. Still got Rudiger, who's one of the best defenders in the Premier League. And he's probably got a dressing room where it might be a little bit heavy in terms of when he looks at the window coming up in January and the summer, it might be a case of 3 or 4 need to leave. People like Giroud, who's not getting the game, can't be happy. Yep. He's got a dilemma at left-back. I still think Emerson and Marcus Alonso are 2 very, very good full-backs, but not in a 4, more so when he plays a 3. So there's going to be positions where he's going to want to fill, but he mustn't be in a rush.
He's got an issue with Willian, hasn't he, with his contract, Pedro as well.
I don't think he should be in a rush, Frank, just to go out there just because all of a sudden he's been given a transfer kit of 100 million plus. I don't think you should rush it. I think you should assess what he's got at the moment. They're still in a great position. Being a little bit inconsistent when you think, especially at the bridge, they've lost against West Ham, Bournemouth, Southampton. So they could quite easily be in second, with another 9 points to that tally. But I think it's a perception. I think Chelsea now are a club where everyone sort of likes all of a sudden. Under Frank, under the new regime, the players that they've got, people sort of tend to want Chelsea and Frank to do well.
I'm not sure how much they would like being liked.
But it was never ever the case. Everyone hated Chelsea, didn't they? You hated all the fact that the money, this, that and the other. It was a little bit bitter. But now you're looking at a club where you think, actually, I hope they do well.
Well, Tammy Abraham's done really well. Again, it'll be interesting to see what Frank Lampard does because he won't want to stunt Abraham's growth. But 12 goals in the Premier League in your first full season in the league, for a club like Chelsea, Glenn, that's a great return.
Yeah, it's a brilliant return. They're obviously creating the chances for him. And Tammy's been at Chelsea a long time and they've thought a lot of him for a long time. Sent on loan a few times, but he's one that's broken into the first team. And 12 goals is a fantastic return. I think he will try and bring someone in January just to take that pressure off his shoulders a little bit. I sometimes feel he looks lost up there in certain games. But for me, regardless of the graph we've just seen, I think it's a really exciting time for Chelsea and Chelsea fans. They've got Loftus-Cheek to come back into that team as well. And I think they could go on to do great things in the future.
You're seeing some players in shot there. You're seeing Willian's little flick there, ball around the corner from Jorginho. Kovacic has been excellent this season. Still a brilliant squad.
What do you think he might do in January?
I think there's 2 things. You look at the defence. He's been linked with Nathan Ake, a return, which would make a lot of sense if they can get him out of Bournemouth. He might want to go. And I think the other ones, they're looking at the future. They're still looking at the future. Jadon Sancho's there's almost an auction in the top European clubs for him, and Chelsea are right in it. So I think it could be, one for now and Sancho if he becomes available. And a lot of moving out, as Don said. They've got to trim that squad.
Yeah, that's as much a part of a job as buying the players, of course, when you're the manager. OK, we will talk about Manchester United now, from one past Manchester United legend to a present one.